Hello, everyone. Welcome to another informative episode on white baby gardening and worm farm. Today, we are going to be discussing another Q&A, and the topic today that we're going to be dealing with is 10 reasons why leaves curl up. But before we go into the 10 reasons why your plant leaves turn up, I'm going to be talking briefly about your perennials, pruning them. Hi, Cajun. Good afternoon. How is your morning going so far? Okay, so your perennials, I'm just gonna touch briefly on it. It is cold here. Oh, hush. Yes, it is cold where I am too. Very cold, in fact. Although it is a bit on the warmer side than usual at this time of year, but it is still pretty cold. Hi, Russell. Okay, so your perennials, when is the best time to prune them? There are times when you might allow your perennials to remain as they are until the spring, maybe because you want to allow the foliage to remain so that it can attract beneficial insects, provide food for them. But the best time to cut back most of your perennial, not all, but most perennial, is in the fall when the leaves are actually yellow or brown already. Then you want to cut it down as possible, and then it will respring in the following year. Now, why should you cut your perennial back? Hi, Sian. You cut your perennial back because it improves the appearance of your plant, and it also improve the flowering of your plant, so you get more flowers from plant. Hi, her healthy home. Okay, so let's get into the meat of our discussion today. 10 reasons why your leaves curl up. Have you ever had that issue where the leaves of your plants curl up? I'm sure there are more than 10 reasons why, but today we're just going to be focusing on 10 of them. And the first reason why your leaves turn up is actually because of aphids. So I know there might be more of you on my live. Some of you are quiet, so I won't be able to see that you have joined me, but welcome to the live. Thank you for being here. Hi, Han White. Okay, yes, so aphid is one of the reasons why our leaves turn up. Now, what are some of the symptoms of aphids on your plant? How can you know that the problem you're having is aphids? Well, the symptoms that you look for with aphids is that the leaves curl up, that's the first one. Then you're going to have yellow spots, and that is going to lead to the plant starting to wilt. And if the aphid release a virus into the plant, then you may end up with black mold forming on the top of your leaves. So those are the signs that you're having aphids. Aphids are so tiny sometimes it can be a bit tricky to see them. But when you see these symptoms, then you will know that they are there. Uh, how do you treat aphids? You can use diatomaceous earth, or you can use potassium salt. because these insects, like most insects, have a waxy exoskeleton, and this protects their body. So the diatomaceous earth and the potassium salt actually cut the waxy layer of their skin, and that is going to cause them to dehydrate and eventually die. So this is one method that you can use to treat aphids on your plants. The next method is that you can use insecticide soap to treat them. Now, aphids, they have a very short life cycle, but they can lay a lot of eggs pretty fast. So it's recommended that between 5 to 7 days, every 5 to 7 days, you keep spraying them with the insecticide soap or using the diatomaceous earth or the potassium salt every 5 to 7 days, and that will control the cycle. Okay, now the next question. The next problem that cause our plants to curl is spider mites. Now, how can you know if you have spider mites? These little insects are either red, green, yellowish, and very tiny. So if you see those, then you know you have spider mites. And what are the symptoms of the spider mites? One, they leave these little pale specks in the leaf of your plant, or you might see little white webbing on the leaves of the plant or on the bud of the plant. Once you start to see the webbing, then you know that you have mites on your plants. Have you ever had to deal with mites on your plant, and what method do you use to treat it? So, treating spider mites, the first thing you might want to do is remove the plant that is infected. Of course, nobody wants to get rid of a plant. There are times when, depending on if you have it in pots or if you have it in the ground, if you have it in pots, then you might be able to just simply move the pot depending on the size of the pot. Worm-bitten mites, destroy spider mites. Yes. Okay. Right. So if you have, you can just remove the pot if the pot is small enough where you can actually move it, or if you have a location to put it. If not, then you may have to remove the high pit stop. You might have to remove the plant from your garden in order to prevent it from spreading. Or if not, then you can, again, like I said, you can use diatomaceous earth, you can use neem oil, you can use chrysanthemum extract. So if you have the plant, you can just simply crush the leaf, put it in water, let it soak for a while, and then use that to spray it. Or you can use peppermint in water, just a few drops per quart. Now, or a few tablespoons per quart, like 2 teaspoons would be fine in a quart of water, and you spray it. And you want to spray the underside of the leaves because usually that is where your mites are. Let's see. Right. So as I was saying, the chrysanthemum, you can just simply crush it. It doesn't matter if it is the leaf or the flower. You crush it in water and you use that to spray the spider mites. The third reason why your plant leaves might curl up is thrips. Now, what are the symptoms of thrips? Have you ever experienced thrips? I've never seen them, or at least if I've had them, I've never really noticed. Now, the symptoms of thrips are bronze or silver color that are in streaks on your leaves. So if once you start to see a brown or a silverish color streak on your leaves, then you know that you have thrips. And the thing is that these leaves will actually turn brown they will get dry and then they will get crumbly before they actually fall off the plant. Yes, they're horrible and attack my tomatoes. Oh, so how do you deal with it, pit stop, when they attack your tomatoes? Oh, what are those? Yes, they're just some tiny little insect. I'm not sure what they look like because I've never really seen them, but the damage that they do can be pretty bad. Yeah, so how do you treat it when you have them on your plants? I spray it with neem oil concoction. Okay, yes, that is one of the remedies. So to treat it, like Tina says, you can use the neem oil. You can use the peppermint oil. Now, the neem oil and the peppermint oil, actually slow down the growth of the insect. So by doing that, the population will not get overrun. I have never seen them. Neither have I. I've never seen them. So I'm going to have to research what they look like so that I can identify them if they can be seen with the naked eyes. Because a lot of time the insects that are affecting our plants, we can't see all of them. Right. So neem oil, and again, 5 to 7 days. You want to spray every 5 to 7 days so that you can control the population. The next one, the fourth, is the white flies. These I've had on occasions, but not very often. What about you? Have you ever had problems with the white flies? What are I hate those. You can't see them without magnifying glass, just their damage. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So I will be looking out to make sure I don't have those. So the white flies, the symptom of the white flies is that the plant becomes stunt and twisted. So once you start to see that, then you know that you have them. You will also have white spots on your plants, or you will have some black moldy area on top of your leaves. So once you start seeing those, then you know that you have white flies. And how do you treat the white flies? Again, you need a neem oil, peppermint oil, insecticide soap, or diatomaceous earth. These work pretty well in controlling them, but you have to be consistent where every 5 to 7 days you apply this solution to control them. You can also use a strong spray hose to spray water on them to beat them off the plant, but that is not very effective in destroying them. It will just be knocking them off the plant. So you want to do your best to control them because they can lay their eggs around, and whenever you plant something else, they will be there to consume it. They caused terror in my garden last year. I'm sorry to hear that, on white. Speaking of the white flies, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, pretty soon you'll be able to control it because here you are getting some information as to what you can do to control these white flies. And then the fifth problem, I know you have this issue last year as well, Han White, is the powdery mildew. Now, how can you identify powdery mildew? Powdery mildew tend to have a white to grayish powder on the leaves. Tend to have a white or grayish powder coating over your leaf, and they are especially on young leaves. You will also see blister around the edges of your leaves. So this is an indication that you are developing powdery mildew. Now, how can you treat this? Now, there are several methods, at least two methods that you can use to treat powdery mildew. They love Swedes. Whoa, okay, interesting. Yes, so the powdery mildew, you want 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar with a quart of water and spray it onto your plants every couple days. You have to be careful though. You don't want it to be strong because the vinegar can harm your plants. So just 2 teaspoons to a quart of water. And wash the leaves with soap. Oh, they get a nice bath. It should be nice and clean when you're done. Right. So 2 teaspoons of apple cider vinegar in water. The next option is to remove the plant that is infected because this will spread pretty fast, especially if the environment that it is in is humid, then the powdery mildew will spread fast. So if you cannot get it under control quickly, then it is best to just get rid of the infected plant. They just come back in a few days. Oh gosh. Yes, that is why you have to be consistent with the treatment. And one reason why a lot of people will have powdery mildew is not enough air circulation. There's not enough space between the plants that you have in your garden. So when you're planting, you have to consider things like these. So don't make your garden too clustered with plants because that can encourage the powdery mildew. And not only that, when the plants are so close together, it is very easy for the mildew to just transfer to the plants that are close by. Yes, my garden was overcrowded. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes we try to get so much out of the garden because we don't have a lot of space, but we want to get as much as we can. But sometimes it's not necessarily worth it if it's going to lead to problems like the powdery mildew or other problems. So sometimes it even make our crops smaller or produce smaller. So yeah, sometimes it's not worth it. Okay, so let's look at the next reason why our garden becomes overcrowded, and that is nitrogen deficiency. How can you know that your garden have nitrogen deficiency? The lower leaves are usually what starts to get yellow first, and then it gradually moves its way up to the top of the plant. So your leaves will become soft and it will become yellow. Then the leaves will start to curl up and it will start to get crispy and then fall off. And once you see this happening, you know that it is it is nitrogen deficiency. So some plants, sometimes your plants start to get yellow, but not necessarily from the bottom. Sometimes it starts at the top, sometimes it starts at the bottom. When it is nitrogen deficiency, it always starts at the bottom. So the lower set of foliage usually starts to get yellow first. How can you treat nitrogen deficiency? This is a simple one, right? Yes. Simply apply some form of nitrogen to your soil. Now, using a solution works faster than using granules or anything, get solid material, because it is in the liquid state, so the plant wicks it as it wicks the liquid. Yes, so comfrey is a very good, very rich source of nitrogen. And your grass clippings, when it is freshly cut, is a very rich source of nitrogen. So these, if you have grass in your yard, you can just cut your lawn and use the lawn to make a liquid fertilizer, or you use comfrey, you crush your comfrey and put it in your water, soak it for a day or so, and then you feed that to the plant, and that works pretty well and very fast too. And the next one is phosphorus deficiency. Yes, it has, comfrey has practically all the nutrients that your plants need to grow. So that is why a lot of people use it for fertilizer. So if you have the space where you can grow it in large quantity, then it is good as your fertilizer. So yes, comfrey does have a lot of nitrogen. Right. So the next problem is phosphorus deficiency. Now, what are the symptoms of phosphorus deficiency? The lower leaves will start to look dark, green, or bluish, and it will become shiny. It may also have this brown or bronze splashes on it. So once you start to see those, then you know that you have phosphorus deficiency. So your leaves will also start to turn brown. So not just splashes, but if the problem prolonged, then your leaves will start to turn brown. Now, how do you treat phosphorus deficiency? You can treat this with ripe banana peel or with uh, anything that contains phosphorus. So the ripe banana peel, you can blend it with the water, or you can just cut it up fine and put it in water. You want to use molasses because molasses help the plant to absorb the phosphorus. So crush it, put it in water, let it stay for a while because you want to get as much of the of the phosphorus out of the banana peel as you can. So you want to let it stay for a while, soak, and then apply it to your plants. You can also put the banana peel in your garden around the plants, but soaking it in water work faster because it does take a while for the banana peel to break down. The banana itself also has the phosphorus, so if you want to use both the ripe banana and the peel, then it works pretty well. Even more nutrients for the plant. Oh, did I just I was talking about phosphorus. I knew something sounded wrong when I was saying phosphorus and banana peel. It actually potassium. So that you use to treat banana peel for your phosphorus problem, you use bone meal. Bone meal contain a lot of phosphorus. So it is not banana peel that you use to treat phosphorus deficiency. That is for potassium. So you use bone meal to treat your phosphorus deficiency. You can also use fish emulsion for your phosphorus deficiency. Child, stop knocking on the door and go away. Right. So bone meal or fish emulsion. Fish emulsion is also good to solve your nitrogen problems as well. And based on my blunder, you know the next deficiency that I'm going to be mentioning is potassium, right? Yes. Right. So you already know how to treat the potassium deficiency because I mentioned the banana peel solution already. Now I'm going to tell you what the symptoms are of potassium deficiency. So the leaves all over your plant is going to start get yellowish brown. So unlike with the nitrogen deficiency where the leaves start to get brown at the the plant and then it works its way up to the top of the plant. That is not the case with the potassium. This yellowish brown occur right throughout the leaves of the plant. So that is how you know that your plant is suffering from potassium deficiency. But the funny thing about it is that it is only the leaves that get this yellow or brown color discoloration when you have potassium deficiency. And it's usually is a pretty bright yellow or a pretty bright brown that you see, but the stem of your plants will remain green and luscious just the same. It doesn't change color. It's just the leaves that actually changes color. So then that is how you identify your potassium deficiency, and you use your ripe banana, whether the banana and the peel or just the peel, to treat this problem. Now, what the next one, the eighth reason why your plant leaves will actually start to turn up is heat stress. Have your plants ever suffered from heat stress? When that happens, how do you treat it? Well, first of all, the symptoms of heat stress is that your leaves will start to curl upwards. Even if it is in the shade, if it is too hot, the leaves will start to curl up. The leaves does not necessarily change color. So unlike with the other deficiencies where you have some um, coloration going on there or discoloration, the when you suffer from your plant suffer from heat stress, it does not change color unless the heat stress is bad to the point where the plant actually start dying. Because when the leaves curl, it's not that the plant is dying, it's just a defense mechanism of the plant to try to withhold as much of the water as it can that causes it to curl. So it's not necessarily that the plant is dying. Now, how do you treat it? If you have your plants in pots, then you might be able to move it to a cooler area. You can use shade cloth to cover it. Let's see. I don't think so. Okay, your plants have never suffered from heat stress. That's good. Yeah, I've seen it quite a lot, especially with my corns. They are the first plants to start to tell me that yes, it's too hot. So you can use shade cloth to cover your plants, and this works pretty well. If you're indoors, then you can use a fan. So if you have a indoor garden like inside your home, or you have a greenhouse, then you can turn on your fan, and that will help. Hi, closet hoarder. Hi, I am new to your family. I have a Jamaican family. How can I stress to them that not all worms are bad? My dear, yeah, that would be good if you could get them to accept that. But once someone make up their mind about worms, that is it. It is pretty hard to get somebody to change their mind about worms. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I didn't worms. I don't really like worms. If it's not composting worms, I don't want to have anything to do with them. Even I like the fish, and you know that in Jamaica we mostly, if you are just fishing for yourself to have fun, then you mostly use worms to fish, and you don't go out and buy worms to fish. You actually dig up your worms, whether at home or on your way to the pond or the lake or wherever you're fishing. But handling worms, I don't like. But over the years, I kind of got used to it, especially since I started my worm bin. But to convince someone that not all worms are bad, you would actually have to be there, raise your worms, use the castings and show them the benefit of it, show them how the worms get rid of your food scraps, and show them how the byproduct of that helps your garden, then if you do that, then maybe that will convince them. But otherwise, I don't know how you can convince them that not all worms are bad. If you're able to succeed in convincing them, let me know what method you use. Okay, yes, so we were discussing how to treat heat stress. So a fan in your greenhouse or your indoor garden works. Shade cloth, there are various grades of shade cloth. So if you see a shade cloth that says 40%, then what it means is that it blocks 40% of the sunlight. If it says 60%, then it means that it blocks 60% of your sunlight. So whatever grade is there on for your shade cloth, that grade tells you what percentage of sunlight it blocks. So you must know to what extent you want to reduce the heat from the sun. So yes, so if you have cool weather crops, then the higher the grade, the better it is for those plants. Watering your plant is another method of keeping them cool. If the time is hot, however, you don't want to water the foliage of your plants, it's best to water close to the root of your plant at that point in time. So now let's move on to the ninth reason why your leaves curl, and that is overwatering. What are the symptoms that you are overwatering your plant? If it is seedling, the first symptom is that you're going to see the base of your plant starting to get pretty thin and your plant topple over because your plant is suffering from root rot. So your plant leaves will droop and curl downwards, and it will turn downward from the stem to the top. So once you see that start happening, then you know that you are overwatering. You have to be careful of root rot because not all plants love a lot of moisture. Some plants do. Now, if your plant is actually suffering from overwatering, how do you treat it? The only thing you can do at that point in time is to actually allow the air around you and the heat around you to dry out the soil to an extent. Then gradually, after your plant has dried, well, the soil has dried out to an extent, then you're going to gradually start watering again, monitoring the amount of water that you give to the plant. Seedlings, these ones die pretty quickly. It doesn't take much for seedlings to die. So for those, you definitely don't want to overwater them. And one way that you can prevent overwatering your seedlings is to put them in a tray that you can put water in the catchment tray and let it wicks the water up from the bottom rather than putting it from the top. And don't water unless it is needed. So you can know if your plant need to be watered if the first half to 1 inch of the topsoil is wet, then you don't need to be watered. If it is dry, then you had your water. And so for yes, so our plant leaves will curl. And so I'm just gonna go over them again. So the first one is aphid. The second one is spider mites. Third, thrips. Fourth, white flies. Fifth, powdery mildew. uh, heat stress, overwatering, nitrogen deficiency, potassium deficiency, and phosphorus deficiencies. These are the reasons why our plants tend to curl. And for those insects that affect our plants, we said that neem oil or peppermint oil usually inhibits the growth of these insects. Diatomaceous earth and potassium salts, these cut the waxy layer of the insects, and this will cause them to dehydrate, resulting in their death. Chrysanthemum can be used to make a solution to treat these pests as well. You can use a hose with a strong spray nozzle to beat the pests off your plant, but of course, that is not the most effective way because they're still alive and lingering around. And for your nitrogen deficiency, you treat it with grass clipping solution or grass clipping tea, or with comfort tea, or any other source of nitrogen that you have. Nitrogen is water soluble, so if you have it in solids, then it doesn't take much for your plant to get the nitrogen. Phosphorus, you treat that with bone meal or fish emulsion. You can use fish emulsion for nitrogen deficiency as well. And for your potassium, the quickest fix is your banana peel solution. So soak it in water mixed with molasses, because the molasses will help it to absorb the nutrients faster. So these are the 10 reasons why your plants leave curl. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And just a friendly reminder that if you are going to be checking out each other's channel, with the quarantine, I'm experiencing the leaf mold, garbage pail compost, worm compost, and compost in place. What is your thought on each? Pail compost. So you're composting in your garbage pail, am I right? Composting in your garbage pail works. The only problem is that it may take a long time for your material to break down. So unless you have a lot of pails where as soon as one is full you move on to the other, then that can be a bit of a challenge because it takes so long to compost. Worm composting, however, that one works pretty well if you're composting, especially if you have to do it indoors in your home, because whatever food scraps you put out, the worms are going to be breaking it down very fast. So whereas the garbage pail might take you 6 months to a year to break down, if you're not doing anything special to it, then the worms, however, can break down your food scraps. If you have a pound of worm, they can break down half pound of food scraps in a day, up to half pound in a day. So it is much faster than relying on just regular composting. Uh, however, however, if you're using the worm composting method, then you want to ensure that whatever casting you harvest, you keep it somewhere where it does not get frozen, because this will kill the microbes that are in your castings. Compost, on the other hand, once it is finished composting, can be frozen. It will still be good to go. Yeah, so composting in place, it does work, but the best method in terms of time and reducing things like you having mold around the house is to use the vermicomposting method. Okay. So did that answer your question, closet order? Okay. Okay, good. Good. So If there are no more questions, then I'm going to be ending this live. If you're going to be supporting each other, please do not leave spamming comments on each other's channel. If you do not show your subscription so that people can know whether or not you're subscribed to them and you want to let them know you subscribe, you can simply watch their video, leave a comment, and just say, I saw you on White Davy's live today, something of the sort. That is not considered as spam. So you can support each other, but be kind by not spamming because YouTube will remove spammers. Okay, so that is it, guys. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy this live, please give me a thumbs up and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, Pit Stop, Tina. Bye, Sian. Take care, Russell. Bye, Closet Hoarder. Bye, everyone.